By now you know. Congress and the Senate have voted in support, overwhelmingly, for the release of the Jeffrey Epstein records to be made public. 24 hours after Donald Trump screamed for them to be released. Now, in this video, I'm not going to get into the rabbit hole as to why he did so, or why he's pushing them to be released now, because we pretty much know as to why, but I'm not going to get into it now and here. I'm going to talk about something else that has been bothering me for too long. I'm going to read an article from John Palvowiz, The Pig President and His Swine Supporters. You're going to hate me for this, but I don't give a damn. The President of the United States called a woman a pig.
Yep, he.
Can we all just take a minute and try to let that sit in? I know we've all been gradually desensitized over the last 10 years, grown accustomed to his repugnant, sneering vulgarity, so used to his prolific, incendiary indecency that it almost becomes white noise to us all. But we need to remind ourselves of how very abnormal all this is. Faced with a question regarding one of the most expansive human trafficking investigations in our nation from a respected journalist, America's Commander-in-Chief, his representative in the world, the person in the high seat of power, stood before cameras and reporters and said, and I quote, "Quiet, piggy." Wondering this, I was almost tempted to ask the question, what kind of person does this on any level, in any professional capacity, in any other setting? But I know the answer. It's the same kind of person who says they're rich and so powerful they can do what they want with a woman. Even grab them, quoting him, Trump's own words, grab them by the pussy. The same kind of person who has been credibly accused by dozens of women of abuse, harassment, and sexual assault. The same kind of person who was declared in court to be liable for raping a woman. The same kind of person whose body of work is littered with misogyny and dehumanization of women. The same kind of person who spent years leveraging his power and position to prevent the release of documents of an investigation of unfoundable sexual violence which likely implicates him. Donald Trump has always been a pig. He's always been an amoral, vile, vulgar creep who lacks a single noble impulse. That is an indisputable, objective, quantifiable fact. The question that needs to be asked, once again, is what kind of a person supports a man like that? How morally broken does someone need to be to affirm this unrepugnant ugliness, to vote for it, to double down on it, to defend it, to celebrate it? How addled by prejudice, perverted theology, political tribalism does a man have to be to declare alignment with a man who is the bereft of a simple humanity? What kind of heart finds affinity in the absolute worst of our species? Sadly, I think we know the answer to these questions as well. For years, we tried to give his supporters the benefit of the doubt, to see them as victims of political, religious, and familial indoctrination. Otherwise, good people manipulated by bomb-feeding partisan media, duped by cunning, power-hungry charlatans, and woefully misled by trusted voices in their lives. We've all worked incredibly hard to craft a story in our minds that removes any responsibility or culpability from his psychopathic disciples. Because the alternative would be to admit that people we know and love and that we once respected have not been tricked by him, but released by him. To be honest with ourselves would force us to reckon with the unthinkable reality that he has given them power and permission to fully embrace the darkness in their hearts. But as we witness Captain Lucy, a respected, experienced professional, not to mention a human being, treated with such sickening disdain by a sitting president, is another reminder that this is not normal, that he isn't normal, and that standing with him is not normal, or at least it shouldn't be for people of faith, morality, and conscience. The president is a pig. That is a natural disaster, planetary disgrace, and historical farce. But the far greater tragedy is why so many Americans see him as a hero. Thank you, John Palvowiz, for that. I'm going to make something clear about this. I'm not nitpicking about any of this with Trump. The true problem that I have with Trump and his rantings and his hatred of anything or anyone that questions him is that as President of the United States, when he rants about wanting to take away broadcasting licenses from networks such as ABC that irk him because a comedian, just by example Jimmy Kimmel, made fun of him and rants and rags on him, or more importantly, a journalist asks him a question about something that happened in this country under his watch. He doesn't know how to react. He doesn't know how to respond, only by threats. Now, as a private citizen, he may be able to get away with it. But as President of the United States, someone who is supposed to defend the Constitution, that should not be acceptable to anyone. You don't like to be questioned, that's fine. But unfortunately for you, Trump, there's something called checks and balances. Unfortunately for you, there is the First Amendment. Unfortunately for you, there is freedom of the press and speech. If you can't handle being questioned about something you said or something you've done as the President of the United States, if you can't handle the fact that the media is going to ask questions about you, if you can't handle the fact that things you say will be played back 10, 15, 50, or 100,000 times, you should be nowhere near the White House. And I can't believe I'm actually explaining this to you. You spent most of your entire life in the public eye. Being the richest man in the country, you were always going to be in the public eye because you put yourself out there. And now, all of a sudden, you can't handle it? That shows to me you have something to hide, and it also shows you're not ready for the public eye. You never were. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left, justice to the right.